On the eve of the wedding, Qin Ziyan suffered a grievous head injury at the hands of thieves. Upon awakening the following day, he approached to welcome the bride, clutching the red silk of the newlywed, and directed his gaze towards my stepsister. Xiao, why have you not yet donned the phoenix crown and bridal gown? Do you find the wedding attire lacking in beauty? Dumbfounded in my own attire of phoenix crown and bridal gown, I stood speechless as he furrowed his brow. You are Xiao's legitimate elder sister. While it may be acceptable to bully her on a daily basis, are you truly intent on usurping her wedding? From this day forth, she shall be known as the Lady of the Flower Examination. I shall no longer permit you to torment her. My stepmother and stepsister implored me to refrain from provoking Qin Ziyan, suggesting that I should appease his desires, awaiting his recovery of memory before reclaiming my rightful position. Yet, I did not witness his return to consciousness. Instead, I beheld him marrying my stepsister in a ceremony filled with affection between husband and wife. My heart grew heavy with sorrow, and while gathering herbs for Qin Ziyan, I tragically fell from a cliff to my demise. In death, I discovered the truth. He had never truly forgotten. It had all been a ruse orchestrated with my stepsister. Standing before my spirit, Qin Ziyan tenderly caressed my stepsister's belly, saying, "Who would have thought her foolishness would lead to her demise without ever realizing my pretense of amnesia? Now that she is gone, you need not worry. No one can threaten your position as the Lady of the Flower Examination." Upon regaining consciousness, I found myself transported back to the day of Qin Ziyan's wedding. 1. You cannot possibly believe that donning a phoenix coronet and a flowing bridal gown would compel me to take you as my wife, can you? The talented scholar Qin Ziyan regarded me with palpable disdain. My entire being felt frigid as I stood there in my wedding attire, having inexplicably returned to life on the very day of my marriage. Qin Ziyan's elder, a matron, approached me in hushed tones, revealing that a thief had broken into the Qin household the previous night, and in a bid to protect a cherished jade artifact of mine within the bridal chamber, Qin Ziyan had sustained a head injury. Upon awakening today, he had forgotten many things. Seeing me lost in thought, Qin Ziyan exclaimed loudly, "Li Jineng, do not presume that your status as the legitimate daughter grants you the right to act as you please. My bride is Jiao. It was one thing for you to covet her possessions in the past, but do you now seek to usurp her marriage as well? Is the eldest daughter of the Pingxi general's family truly so shameless?" His words were harsh and cutting, inciting whispers among the onlookers. Who would have thought that Miss Li could be so ruthless? She appears so dignified and gracious, yet treats her stepsister with such contempt. How shameless! Is she unable to secure a marriage for herself? Indeed, engaging in such morally reprehensible acts, does she not fear divine retribution? While the crowd was aware that the talented scholar sought to marry into the Pingxi general's family, they were oblivious to the true nature of the engagement. Qin Ziyan's words led them to believe he intended to wed Jiao, while I was painted as the malicious elder sister intent on stealing away my sister's happiness. The murmurs reached my ears as my stepsister, Jiao, approached, biting her lip and whispering, "Elder sister, the doctor mentioned that Brother Ziyan's head injury requires no stimulation. If he takes his medicine and undergoes acupuncture regularly, he will recover in due time. Perhaps we should acquiesce to his wishes, let this misunderstanding persist, and I can marry him first. Once he regains his memory, we can switch back. Rest assured, sister, I will merely substitute for you. I will not consummate the marriage with Brother Ziyan. The doctor assured me that if we avoid stimulating him, the blood clot on his head will dissipate swiftly." 2. I regarded my timid stepsister, Li Jiao, who, in my previous life, had uttered the very same words. Though reluctant, I did not wish for any harm to befall Qin Ziyan. To facilitate his swift recovery of memory, I agreed to my stepsister's plan to marry in my stead. Yet, I had not anticipated that all of this was a ruse. Qin Ziyan had never truly lost his memory. They were already enamored with one another, having engaged in clandestine exchanges, orchestrating a charade that would compel me to withdraw voluntarily, thereby sanctifying their union before the eyes of the public. In this lifetime, they would not deceive me again. It was but a dream. I fully awakened and took a step back. "Your Excellency, how amusing." My sister wished to see what the wedding gown looked like when worn and requested I model it for her. I did not expect the talented scholar to arrive so early. My sister has yet to prepare herself. My words left Qin Ziyan and my stepsister momentarily stunned. I turned, shedding the bridal gown and draping it over Jiao. "Sister, today is your auspicious day. Go and prepare yourself anew. Joy illuminated the faces of Jiao and Qin Zian as they exchanged furtive glances, hastily retreating, fearful of being discovered. My stepmother, brimming with delight, urged, "Quickly assist the second miss in her preparations. The auspicious hour is nearly upon us." When Jiao emerged, adorned in her phoenix coronet and flowing gown, Qin Zian approached. Holding a red silk banner aloft, "Jiao, you are the most beautiful bride in the entire capital today. I shall protect you and ensure no one dares to bully you." With that, he cast a glance in my direction, as if to imply that I was the one who tormented my stepsister. The bride was about to depart when the matchmaker called out. The bearers of the dowry prepared to set forth, and my stepmother cheerfully instructed, "Be cautious with the dowry. Do not let it be damaged." "Hold on," I interjected. The joyous sound ceased, and Qin Zian glared at me. "What now?" "The auspicious hour for our wedding is fast approaching. Do not think to ruin this union any further. You must understand, I will never marry you." Although I was well aware of his character, his words still pierced my heart. Nevertheless, I raised my gaze to meet his, responding calmly, "This dowry is what my late mother left for me. As you are marrying Jiao, it is only right that her dowry be presented." I turned to my stepmother. "Did not mother prepare a dowry for my sister?" My stepmother faltered, replying softly, "Jinhang, today's events are unexpected. Mother did not foresee Qin Zian's intention to marry Jiao. Therefore, let us allow your dowry to be presented on her behalf, as once Zian regains his memory, it will still be you he marries, and the dowry shall remain yours." I smiled. "Mother, it is best to delineate clearly, lest there be misunderstandings later. If my sister presents her dowry, she can always return it should we switch back. In my previous life, they deceived me into relinquishing my marriage, yet still transported my mother's 100 dowries to the Qin family, living lavishly with my funds, using that money to secure Qin Zian's south rise in the court. 3. In this lifetime, I shall reclaim all that rightfully belongs to me." I stood resolutely before the dowry, unwavering as I regarded my stepmother, who glared at me through gritted teeth. "Will you truly allow your sister to miss the auspicious hour for the wedding?" My personal matron stepped forward in my defense. "Madam, I have heard from the matrons in your courtyard that the second Mrs. Dowry has long been prepared. It can be retrieved from the storeroom without delay, and we can still meet the auspicious hour." Jiao lifted her veil, gazing at me with reddened eyes as she whispered, "Sister, I know you do not wish for me to marry Brother Zian, but this is merely a facade. The dowry will only ever belong to you. Why must you make it difficult for Mother? It would be most unfortunate for others to mock us." "Mockery? It is their taking of my dowry that is the true jest." I looked at Qin Zian. "I trust brother-in-law would not mind waiting for a brief moment, would you? The servants mistakenly brought forth the wrong dowry. Mine was brought out instead. If you are to marry my sister, surely it must be exchanged, no?" Qin Zian scoffed. "Li Jintang, do not think you can delay with such tactics. The one I intend to marry is Jiao. I care not for the quantity of her dowry." I applauded. Indeed, the talented scholar cherishes his sister. "Bring forth my 100 dowries into my courtyard, and once Mother opens the storeroom, we will retrieve my sister's dowry. Be swift, and I shall reward you generously." Upon hearing of the reward, the servants quickly transported my 100 dowries into my courtyard. Witnessing my stepmother's face darken, I felt an exhilarating sense of satisfaction. In my previous life, my sister had taken my dowry, and when I later counted the dowry my stepmother claimed was set aside for her, I discovered that she had meticulously orchestrated our exchange, leaving only 40 dowries in the storeroom, filled with outdated garments, old hair ornaments, and trinkets unworthy of display, each one a source of ridicule. Jiao's 40 dowries were brought forth, prompting the onlookers to murmur, "Such a meager dowry." The eldest daughter had 100 dowries. The eldest daughter's mother is from the wealthiest family in Jiangnan, while the second miss is the offspring of a concubine. Can you imagine what wealth a concubine might possess? These 40 dowries must have been padded with nothing of substance. Oh, so the second miss is essentially a bastardy. Why pretend to be of legitimate birth? The matchmaker, sensing the shift in sentiment, quickly resumed her announcements. "The bride is departing. Let the sedan chair be lifted. Let the music commence." Festive tunes filled the air as Qin Zian, brimming with pride, carried Li Jiao forth, accompanied by her light and insubstantial 40 dowries. The marriage of the talented scholar naturally became a moment of sorrow for many eligible women in the capital, drawing a considerable crowd. "Qin Zian, Handsome and once the top scholar, had garnered the attention of many noble families, yet he repeatedly proclaimed that during his fall from grace, it was my father who supported his studies, and he had vowed to marry the daughter of the Pingxi general once he achieved success. 4. Now that he had indeed succeeded, he faithfully honored his promise to wed the general's daughter. Countless young ladies, seething with jealousy, tore their handkerchiefs, loathing the person seated within the bridal sedan, while throngs gathered on the streets to witness the spectacle. Just as the bridal sedan arrived at the Qin residence, the procession was intercepted. Qin Zian, incensed, demanded, "What is the meaning of this? This is my esteemed family. Do you dare to cause a disturbance?" The servant stationed at the entrance proclaimed loudly, "Esteemed scholar, it has been decreed by the eldest daughter that this courtyard is part of her dowry. The furnishings within were also her bridal gifts. Now that you are marrying the second daughter, how can you bring her into the residence arranged by the eldest daughter? Is it not a grand calculation for the esteemed scholar to not only wed our second daughter, but to covet the eldest daughter's dowry as well? To marry one daughter while aspiring to claim the dowries of both? Did the scholar not boast of regarding wealth as mere refuse? How is it that, when the time has come, he exhibits such greed?" The voice of the servant echoed far and wide, akin to a slap resounding across Qin Zian's face. Qin Zian's expression darkened further, gritting his teeth. "Li Jinhang, that venomous woman, I knew she would not easily acquiesce to the idea of exchanging marriages." The wedding procession was thus halted at the gates. Naturally, I had my personal maid relay every detail of their predicament to me. Years ago, my father had encountered Qin Zian while returning to the capital with his troops. He had found him faint from hunger on the road. Upon awakening, he learned that Qin Zian was an orphan, journeying alone to the capital for the imperial examinations, having exhausted his funds and collapsed midway. My father, recognizing his talent, took him in, and over time, his admiration for Qin Zian grew, leading him to betroth me to him, stating he would come to marry me once he achieved success. Everyone praised him for his affection and gratitude. For the sake of his dignity, my father concealed Qin Zian's background. My stepmother and stepsister were completely unaware, believing him to be a talented individual favored by my father. Ji Yao, who had always vied with me for possessions, could not help but feel envious upon seeing the suitor chosen by my father. She devoted much effort to ensnare Qin Zian's heart, ultimately captivating him to the point of madness, concocting a scheme to deceive me into breaking our engagement. Since Qin Zian had nothing to his name, my father had prepared a 3-courtyard residence within my dowry. Before my marriage, some of the furnishings from my dowry were placed in the courtyard, and Qin Zian took residence there, departing from this location to greet the wedding procession. Unbeknownst to others, they would assume this was a house purchased by Qin Zian for the wedding. Little did they know, he was destitute, and all of this belonged to me. Trapped within the bridal sedan, Ji Yao, hearing the commotion, lifted her veil and inquired, "What is happening?" "This is clearly the Qin residence. How has it become my sister's dowry?" "You insolent servants, how dare you?" A servant presented the property deed, stating, "Second Miss. It is clearly written here that this belongs to the eldest Mississippi. Why not inquire with the esteemed scholar? Since he was marrying the second daughter, it defied logic for him to reside within the eldest daughter's dowry home. If word spread, how would the esteemed scholar endure the ridicule of his peers in the future?" Upon hearing this, Qin Zian's expression soured, and he gently coaxed Ji Yao, "This quarrel will ruin the auspicious timing. Your sister's difficulties are merely an expression of her displeasure at my marriage to you. Did you not once mention that your dowry included a small courtyard? Perhaps we could settle there for now. In due time, I shall devise a way to persuade your sister to relinquish the courtyard." Helpless, with the arrow already drawn, Ji Yao begrudgingly consented, and the wedding procession turned around, heading to a modest courtyard in Hahua Alley to the west of the city. It was merely a simple courtyard with only basic tables and furniture. The matchmaker, eager for her reward, forced a smile and said, "No problem, no problem. Come, let us affix these auspicious characters. Everything will be joyous." Little did Qin Zian and Li Zhiyao anticipate that their wedding would unfold in such a manner, as they performed their vows in the humble courtyard. Once the guests departed after receiving their wedding gifts, only Ji Yao's few maidservants and the matron remained. Ji Yao, in a fit of anger, ripped off her veil, her eyes reddening with fury. "How could this be? My sister has suddenly seized the dowry and returned home. Did you not claim she adored you so deeply that she would endure anything for you? Qin Zian, having faced embarrassment throughout the day, maintained a stony silence, but forced himself to say, "She is merely upset. We must endure for now. On the third day, when we visit her home, I shall find a way to placate her and reclaim the courtyard. You are now the esteemed wife of a scholar, destined for endless honor and wealth. Why concern yourself with this moment?" Ji Yao, feeling wronged, burst into tears. "You promised I would enjoy boundless riches and glory, yet on our wedding day, you have tarnished my reputation. How will you navigate the circles of wives in the capital after this?" Qin Zian furrowed his brow. "What do you wish to do now? You chose to marry me willingly. If you are unwilling, we have not yet consummated the marriage. I could have you returned home to marry your sister instead, for she is solely waiting to wed me. If you endure a little now, I shall not treat you poorly in the future." Ji Yao found herself at a loss for words, swallowing her indignation. She instructed her maid to unpack her dowry trunk and arrange the contents to adorn the courtyard, forcing a semblance of a bridal chamber. Under Qin Zian's coaxing, they entered the bridal chamber, becoming husband and wife. The following morning, before they had even fully awakened, there was a loud banging at the door. "Open up, Lord Qin. Quickly, open the door. It's time to settle the accounts. You cannot shirk your debts. Settle the bill for the items used in your wedding, esteemed scholar." A throng of creditors crowded at the entrance, drawing countless curious gazes. As the servant opened the door, several merchants rushed into the courtyard, looking at the newly attired Qin Zian, their smiles strained. "Lord Qin, here's the list of items you used for your wedding. We kindly ask you to settle the account. Yesterday was your wedding, and we did not wish to intrude, but today we hope you can clear your debts. Our shop cannot extend credit. To marry me, Qin Zian had made grand purchases, believing that with my devotion, he would surely settle all accounts. He had no inkling that I had lived a second life and would not be a fool again. Upon seeing the bill amounting to several hundred taels, he felt a splitting headache and handed the bill to Ji Yao. "Madam, you now preside over the household. Please take care of this." He then whispered, "Use your dowry funds to settle it for now. I shall reimburse you later." Ji Yao flung her hand in anger. "Why should I use my dowry funds? Do you think marrying you means everything is on credit?" Qin Zian, humiliated, felt his temper flare. "What are you saying? Who do you think I spend all this for? Whose face was I trying to uphold? You are usually generous and dignified. Why are you being so petty over this trivial matter? Your sister would never be as inconsiderate as you are. She never complained when paying for my expenses." Ji Yao's tears flowed. "Are you regretting marrying me? You regret it already, just after the wedding? I knew it. The unattainable is often the most desirable. Historically, men have been fickle, and you are no exception." With that, she collapsed onto the table, weeping uncontrollably. Despite her tears, the bill still needed to be settled. The merchant, having seen various situations, quickly stepped forward. "My lord, it is common for newlyweds to be cash-strapped. Why not write an IOU and repay us when you have the funds?" Qin Zian, relieved to have a solution, immediately agreed and pressed his seal onto the IOU written by the merchant, dismissing the creditors. Regardless of their quarrels, it was of no concern to me. I was in the estate, meticulously cataloging my mother's dowry, placing everything into my private vault. On the third day of Ji Yao's return home, just as I finished my grooming, a panting maid rushed in, exclaiming, "Miss, trouble has arisen. Qin Zian is kneeling at the estate's entrance, claiming to seek forgiveness and requesting to marry you." By the time I arrived at the gates of the general's residence, a crowd had already gathered. Qin Zian, dressed in white, knelt before the estate, holding a ruler aloft. Upon seeing me, his eyes reddened, and he gazed at me with deep emotion. "Jin Tang, I apologize. Upon awakening today, I recalled everything. I've caused you distress. Before everyone, feel free to strike me to vent your grievances. I am sorry. I cannot believe I forgot you." I blinked, perplexed by this situation, so unlike my previous life. What was he attempting? The onlookers began to murmur, "What is going on?" It is said that the scholar suffered an injury on his wedding day and lost his memory. It turns out he intended to marry the eldest daughter, but forgot everything and brought home the second daughter instead. Now he claims to remember and wishes to marry the eldest daughter. Alas, Master Qin is indeed deeply infatuated with the young lady. The illustrious flower of the capital kneels before the general's residence to beg for forgiveness. As I overheard the murmurs of the crowd, Qin Zian's eyes turned red before all. "How could I have forgotten that the one I wish to marry is you? How could I be so thoughtless as to let you slip my mind? That day, I must have shattered your heart. Now that I recall, Jinang, I shall never let you go. I vow to be with you for all eternity. Jiao timidly approached. Sister, the moment Brother Zian awoke today, he remembered everything and expressed his desire to come to you and seek your forgiveness. Please, grant him your pardon. I remained silent as I watched the two of them harmonize before me. Qin Zian turned to me. I will arrange for an auspicious day to marry you. Is that agreeable? I glanced at Jiao, then back at him and asked, You wish to marry me? What about Jiao? Has she not become your wife? Qin Zian's expression faltered as he glanced between us, uncertain of how to respond. Jiao, following closely behind him, softly said, Sister, I seek nothing more than a place by your side, to serve Brother Zian. I am willing to be a concubine or a maid. As long as you do not cast me away, I shall devote myself to serving you both. With a heavy heart, I pressed my hand to my chest. Gazing at her, did you not say you would not consummate your marriage with him, that once Qin Zian regained his memory, you would reclaim your vows? How can it be that within 3 days, your words have changed, and you wish to remain by his side as a servant? Are you not intentionally taking his place? Having long harbored feelings for Brother Zian and yearned to marry him? How foolish I was to believe your words and relinquish him so easily. Now that you are wed, how can I still hope to marry? Alas, it is but my fate. Let this marriage be spoken of no more. I wiped my eyes with a handkerchief soaked in ginger juice, causing my tears to flow profusely. My words rendered Jiao crimson-faced, taken aback by my unexpected reaction. In the past, I was weak-willed, easily swayed by her tears, but now I showed no semblance of my former self, unmasking their insincerity with just a few words. My stepmother interjected, Jinang, how can you say such things? Your sister married him for your sake, to secure your husband. Qin Zian quickly nodded. I acknowledge my fault, Jinang. Please do not be angry. This is not Jiao's doing. If you were to marry into the Qin family, surely you and your sister would coexist harmoniously. Jiao would not vie for your affection, for she has always cherished you as her elder sister. Would it not be better for us to be a harmonious family? I sharply withdrew my hand. Master Qin, I implore you to show some respect. You have married my sister and become a couple, thus I am no longer involved. I should now address you as brother-in-law. Let this marriage be spoken of no more. You publicly declared your intention to marry her before all, with the entire city as witnesses, and you brought her into the Qin family with great pomp. Now you wish to wed me? Is it that the daughters of the Li family cannot find suitors, that they must all be wed to you? Well said, came a deep voice from behind us. I turned, filled with joy. Father, you have returned. Clad in armor, he strode in, ruffling my hair. Indeed, you are my daughter. He turned to Qin Zian. Regardless of your memory, you are now wed to Jiao, and any talk of a union with Jinang is henceforth null and void. You two should depart and not linger on this matter. My stepmother grew anxious. General, my father shot her a glare. What? Do you wish to have both daughters married to Qin Zian, one as a wife and one as a concubine? Does that bring you honor? The stepmother fell silent. And I smiled faintly, knowing she sought to marry me into the Qin family to mend her daughter's plight. Her calculations were clever, yet fate has its own designs. I had long harbored a disdain for Qin Zian. Why would I consider marrying into the Qin household? Jiao yearned to be with him, so let her be Mrs. Qin. Tears welled in Jiao's eyes. I know sister despises me for marrying Brother Zian, but I had no choice. I am now his, and, while my husband thinks of you, sister, you will not accept me. For the sake of Brother Zian and for your happiness, I would willingly die to fulfill your heart. With that, she rushed toward the stone lion at the door. Qin Zian caught her. Jiao, why must you go to such lengths? This is all my fault. He looked at me. Disappointment etched in his eyes. Jinang, do you truly wish to watch your sister perish for your sake? I tossed aside my handkerchief. Master Qin, tread carefully. My sister is being unreasonable. You have a marriage contract with the general's residence to wed the daughter of the Li family. Since you have married Jiao, that bond is now sealed, and I do not wish to interfere with her union. How am I the villain here? Must you force a virtuous lady into wedlock? Is it true that whoever cries the loudest is in the right? I offered you the chance to be the primary wife, yet you are unwilling? Must I marry into this family to force you into a concubine's role? I have never witnessed such coercion to make a sister serve the same husband. Jiao, you have truly opened my eyes. My father stepped forward. Someone, remove them from here. Jiao cried out, Father, I am also your daughter. He cast her a disdainful glance. Our household has no room for a daughter who cannot discern right from wrong, nor one with ill intentions. The gates of the general's residence closed before them, and my stepmother tried to plead. But my father's fury erupted. You think I am unaware of the schemes you have orchestrated for Jiao? I simply have yet to find the time to settle the score with you. Should this continue, I shall dismiss you. His words left her pale and speechless. Father then entered my courtyard, remaining silent for a while before solemnly asking, Jin Tang, tell me, do you truly not harbor feelings for Qin Zian? If your motives are different, you need not worry. If you still wish to marry him, I can arrange it so that Jiao does not suffer. I interrupted him, resolutely stating, Father, I do not love Qin Zian, nor will I ever marry such a man. As I gazed at him, a flood of grievances surged within me. I concealed the truth of my rebirth, but disclosed to my father that Qin Zian had feigned amnesia. I had inquired, discovering he had hired a newly arrived doctor from Huachuntang, paying him 100 taels to concoct a tale of memory loss due to head trauma. I knew the truth. Upon hearing him propose to Jiao, I understood he was no virtuous man. I would never wed him, since my sister cherished him. Scheming with her mother to harm me for the sake of marrying Qin Zian, let her have him. My father's eyes reddened. I have been preoccupied with battle, neglecting my Jintang. Fear not. Now that I have returned, no one shall dare to bully you. Li Jiao became the wife of the flower of the capital. Yet the meager stipend of the flower lord could scarcely sustain their household, relying on Jiao's modest dowry. My father remarked that someone in the court was investigating Qin Zian, uncovering his misuse of office and acceptance of bribes, amassing quite a fortune. He sighed upon his entry into the political arena. I believed him to be a man of integrity. How naive I was to think he would risk so much for mere wealth. I smiled knowingly. Qin Zian had never been a man of virtue. If he did not covet wealth, he would not have sought my dowry, and his greed would only escalate, for he had debts to repay. The day after the wedding, the steward of the shop where my mother had left my dowry came to collect debts. I had him note the interest on the IOU. With each passing day Qin Zian delayed repayment, the interest compounded. What began as a debt of a few hundred taels now amounted to over 1,000. As I listened to the innkeeper's words, a faint smile graced my lips. Qin Zian, ensnared in a quagmire, had tasted the sweetness of illicit gains, cleared his debts, yet found it impossible to withdraw. For the allure of easy riches was simply too intoxicating. Jiao gradually transformed into an enviable lady of the court, extravagant in her expenditures, adorned in brocade daily, sparkling with jewels as she ventured out for social engagements, even upgrading their residence to a grand 3-courtyard manor. With the springtime in full bloom, the Qin family celebrated their relocation to the new residence with a lavish banquet, welcoming a multitude of guests. Amidst the revelry, a servant entered, wiping his brow, to announce, "My lord, there is a woman outside with a child, claiming to seek you, saying she is your wife, and the child is yours." The proclamation stunned the assembly into silence. Jiao stood, her face ashen. What wife? What child? What madwoman? Throw her out. Yet, Qin Zian rose hurriedly, his panic propelling him outside. There stood a peasant woman, cradling a 2- or 3-year-old child. Upon seeing Qin Zian, she rushed to him. "Husband, I have finally found you." The child extended his arms. "Daddy, Tuan Tuan misses you." Qin Zian embraced the pair. "Yun Yang, what brings you here?" The mother and child wept in his arms. "Husband, it has been a harrowing search for you. Thankfully, someone informed us that you have become a high official in the capital, which guided us here." "Who are they?" Li Jiao shrieked, her complexion turning a ghastly shade as she beheld the mother and child in Qin Zian's embrace, her limbs turning cold. The guests, grasping the situation, began to murmur among themselves. Is it true? Qin, the flower of the court, was already married? Not only married, but he has a son. The whispers swirled around Li Jiao's ears, and with reddened eyes, she pointed at the mother and child, demanding, "Tell me, who are they?" Qin Zian, holding the pair, spoke softly. "This is Yun Yang, my wife from before I came to the capital." Jiao screamed. "She is your original wife? Then what am I? Who am I? You married me in grand style, yet you had another wife? Am I merely a concubine?" "Qin Zian, you have deceived me." Qin Zian hastily reassured her. No, no. You are not a concubine. You were married to me with all due ceremony. You are my primary wife. A resounding slap landed on his face. Primary wife? I. A general's daughter, sharing the title of primary wife with a peasant woman? You must be dreaming. Yunyang caressed Qinzian's cheek. Husband. Then, with tear-filled eyes, she addressed Ji Yao. Madam, I am acutely aware of my lowly status. I can forego being his primary wife, but Tuan Tuan is his blood. I cannot allow my child to be born without a proper status. I implore you, for the sake of the child, to allow us to enter the household. Ji Yao cried out vehemently, impossible. Qinzian, if you allow them to enter the household, I shall report you to the authorities for taking a second wife and have you stripped of your position. The banquet descended into chaos. I watched this farce unfold from a tea-house across from the flower court, a smirk gracing my lips. I had instructed my father to investigate Qinzian's affairs, discovering he had married and fathered a child before coming to the capital. I informed Yunyang that Qinzian was alive and thriving in the capital, and arranged for her and her child to be escorted to the city. What a lively reunion on such a fine day. It was worth the effort I had expended. Regardless of Ji Yao's objections, Yunyang and her child entered the household, for the child was Qinzian's flesh and blood, the legitimate heir of the Qin family. Ji Yao, her teeth clenched in frustration, lamented, if she is the original wife, and her child is the legitimate heir, what of our future children? Shall they be deemed inferior? My child shall not be subordinate to this peasant woman. How dare she, with such a lowly origin, stand on equal footing with me? I demand you demote her to concubine. Li Zhiyao caused a ruckus in the Qin household, returning home in tears, collapsing into her stepmother's arms. Mother, you urged me to seize Li Jintang's engagement, yet I had no inkling Qinzian was such a man. She looked up at me as I entered, her eyes blazing with hatred. It was you, wasn't he it? You knew he had a wife, and thus you relinquished the engagement to me. You did it intentionally to harm me. I regarded her with disdain. Li Zhiyao, you pursued the marriage of your own volition. The outcome you face is your just desserts. Ji Yao refused to return to the Qin residence, and the next day, Qinzian came to placate her. In the study, I overheard her menacing ultimatum. Either Yunyang is demoted to concubine, or you send them away, never to return to the capital. And their son shall not be entered into the family registry. My child shall be the legitimate heir. Qinzian firmly refused. That is impossible. Ji Yao laughed mockingly. Impossible? Qinzian, allow me to remind you, I possess records of all your corrupt dealings. Should you insist on this path, do not blame me for handing those records to the authorities, leading to your disgrace. Qinzian growled, you dare. Their voices lowered, and after a moment, they returned together to the Qin residence. A few days later, it was reported that Qinzian had expelled Yunyang and her child from the capital, but en route, they were beset by robbers, narrowly escaping with their lives. Ji Yao, having relished her brief triumph at seeing Yunyang and her child sent away, was soon confronted by officials at her doorstep. Yunyang, with her child, knelt at the gate of the Jingyao prefecture, accusing the newly appointed flower of the court, Qinzian, of taking a second wife and hiring assassins. In her flight, she had discovered a Qin family token on one of the robbers. The officials arrived swiftly, apprehending Qinzian for questioning, and upon investigation, he was thunderstruck to learn that the hired assassin was none other than Li Zhiyao. When Li Zhiyao was brought to the court, she shouted defiantly, you dare lay hands on me. I am the flower of the court. Qinzian, gritting his teeth, retorted, I have sent them away. Are you not satisfied? Do you seek to silence them with murder? Li Zhiyao seethed. If they return to their hometown, will they cease to exist? As long as they live, I cannot bear it. The thought of her being the original wife, and that child being the legitimate heir, is intolerable. Only in their demise can my future children be secure in their status. The scandal of the flower abandoning his lowly wife and the flower lady hiring assassins spread like wildfire through the capital, reaching even the emperor's ears, who merely shook his head. Such a person is unfit for office. Strip him of his title and cast him into exile. Li Zhiyao, found guilty of hiring an assassin, was sentenced to branding and banishment, condemned to toil in distant lands alongside Qinzian. Upon learning the news, her stepmother wept inconsolably, her mind unraveling in despair, and her father could only send her to the countryside to recuperate, never to return. On the day of their exile, I caught a glimpse of them at the city gate, watching as the officials dragged Qinzian and Li Zhiyao, clad in tattered summer garments, through the biting wind. A long sigh of relief escaped me. The grievances of that lifetime felt as though they had finally been lifted. I gazed at them one last time, tightening my fox fur cloak around me, settling into the warmth of my carriage. They could no longer inflict any harm upon me. The past was finally behind me. The end. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to our next story together.